Welcome back to the Let's Buy a Home podcast. I'm your host, first-time buyer mortgage advisor, Dan Knott. And this week, I'm joined by Elvire Matu, who's going through the process of buying her family home via the Right to Buy scheme. Elvire, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I'm very excited to chat. I know you've got a lot going on at the moment. So let's start. Please start by introducing yourself.
Yeah, so my name's Elvire and I am a content creator, mainly focused around money saving tips. So you might know me as SaveWithElvs, the money saving superhero. But I also work full time and I also run a dance company that I recently won an award for, surprise on telly on ITV, the National Lottery Game Changer Award.
Amazing. I can see you've got so much going on at the moment. So the house purchase, I'm sure, is adding another element to that. Definitely. We start every podcast with the same question. The Let's Buy a Home Hall of Fame is a place where each of our guests place an item that they could not live without in their own home. So, Elvie, what would you like to place into the Let's Buy a Home Hall of Fame?
This is going to sound so silly, but it is a Bluetooth light bulb.
Expand.
So I'm really lazy and I tend to use my phone to basically switch off my light or switch on my light. Or I might say, Alexa, switch off the light. And I'll say it in French as well. So I can't live without a Bluetooth light bulb because I'm so lazy and I want it to just switch off without me actually getting up.
Amazing. Well, I appreciate that. I personally probably need to catch up with technology. I'm still not really using Alexa. But I'll get round to it eventually. Perfect. So let's dive into the podcast. So, you're going through the process of buying your family home. How did this opportunity come about?
So the Right to Buy scheme is always something that I've always thought about within my family. But as of November 2024, the Chancellor announced that they were going to be reducing the discount for the Right to Buy. So that kind of put pressure probably not just on myself, probably the whole country of thinking, oh my goodness, we're going to miss out on this opportunity of being able to buy our home with the maximum discount. And in my case, it's $136,400, which is a massive chunk to get off of your home. And I think it's just something that we've always wanted to do because it's a family home that you want to keep, that you want to cherish, and that you want to, I guess, pass on to generation behind you. So, yeah, it's quite important. We've not actually probably owned anything as big as this. It's a massive purchase. So I think having an asset is, I think, something that I've probably always wanted to do. And I think it hits home more because it is a family home.
Yeah, definitely. And just for our listeners who may not know, what is the Right to Buy scheme?
Yeah, so the Right to Buy scheme is essentially being able to purchase your home from the local authority or as a housing association tenant. It is essentially you getting a massive discount off your purchase. You must have probably lived in the property for about 3 years in order to be considered to even have a discount, and you have to be a secure tenant. So whoever the head tenant is, if it's your parent or if it's a sibling, whoever it might be, they must be a secure tenant before you could even consider buying a home with a discount. You can also do, obviously, if you're a housing association tenant as well. It's a house that you have to make sure that you're actually living in as well. You have to ensure that whoever you're buying with, whether it's a family member, whether it's a partner, that they also live within the property. You must make sure that you are not like behind any kind of debt or anything like that to be considered to be able to be successful. And within that Right to Buy scheme, you basically just submit to the council that you're willing to buy the property off of them.
Was it always the plan to buy the family home via the Right to Buy scheme?
Oh yeah, 100%. There's no other way, essentially. Because my mother is actually the head tenant, it would mean us missing out on a massive discount chunk. So it's always something we considered. We just didn't know how soon the government was going to change the rules, which meant that everyone was kind of like rushing basically last minute to get it done. Yeah.
Why is it so important that you buy the family home?
Memories. I want my grandkids to run around in there too. And essentially also, I feel like it's sentimental for my family and my mum to ensure that she's like passed on something to her children, really. So it's, and also just security as well, just knowing that that is our home. You know, we're not going to give you like kicked out or anything like that. Yeah. It's actually our home. So it means a lot to be able to do that and be able to change it around, maybe decorate, make it, you know, officially yours, because essentially people tend to say, oh, I'm not going to like do much to the house because it doesn't belong to me. So knowing that you could potentially own that house means that you could do whatever it is that you want to do to it.
I can relate because last year I bought my grandparents' house.
Oh, wow.
Now, our grandparents' house, for context, was the home that we all went to at Christmas, in the garden every summer, me, brothers, sisters, all of our cousins. And I always said from being a child, I will buy that house when the time comes, because I couldn't see it leaving the family. Now, that time came last year, and straight away I said to the family, you know, I am going to buy the property. However, as we moved through the process in the weeks past, I did have doubts. I did question, is this house the right option for me and my family? Is it a good financial decision? You know, is it somewhere I want to live for the next 5, 10, 15 years? And I did question whether I was just buying it because I've always said I wanted to buy it, and whether it was just an ego thing. Now, in the end, I'm very happy that I did buy it. We're still there. We're going to be there for many more years. But yeah, have you had any doubts along the way? Have you ever questioned yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I have thought like that would mean me sacrificing my first time as a buyer. But I thought realistically, I live in London. Will I be able to afford to buy a property on my own without a partner? No. And knowing that, you know, I am a council tenant, but my mum obviously is the head tenant, it would be quite silly to throw that away and having over 136,000 in discount applied to your property. So I have had doubts prior, but I think I've always known that eventually I would love to buy a property within the UK. But it just made more sense and financial sense to do it with my family home.
Yeah, and you've taken the opportunity and you've benefited from the huge discount. But as you've mentioned, there have been changes. How do you think that's going to impact people who are in a similar position to you, but maybe who haven't been able to take the opportunity that you have?
Yeah. Wow, it's a massive slash, I'm not going to lie. So people, depending what area you're in, so some people will be looking at the new discount rate of 38,000. That's like Havering, Barking and Dagenham, the private areas, and everyone knows that's where I'm from. Other areas are looking around 36,000. Other areas are looking around 16,000. So it's a massive, massive cut, because you're now thinking, imagine your property price being, you know, 300k and you've got over 100k off, and now just knowing you can only have 38k. That is like, how am I going to afford the rest? How am I going to find that that shortfall? How many more years will it take me to save up to be able to actually afford my family home? And I think it's, I guess, majority of people who live in council homes tend to have either a lower salary or tend to live in deprived areas. So sometimes it makes it a little bit more difficult for them, because I've had people even message me saying, you know, like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to afford it, or I'm a single parent, like, how am I going to do it? And since having that massive discount slash, I think it's going to affect a lot of people, probably negatively, because they're probably thinking, I'm going to have to work now for another like 30, 50 years on top, when I'm probably planning to retire a bit sooner, or it's more of a financial strain on them as well.
Yeah, I've spoke to home buyers who've maybe been affected by it, who maybe weren't in the position to capitalise on it.
Yeah.
And yet it's heartbreaking for some people that
it really is.
that's maybe slipped by, because although it is still there in a slightly different form, it's so much harder.
Yeah.
And it's quite simply not the same opportunity.
No. It's basically like that was like our last shot of being able to get our home through the Right to Buy scheme with a really good discount. So, yeah.
So you were given approval by the council to buy the home. What happened next?
Yeah, so essentially you send your application off. It's called the RTB1 to the council. And you're basically saying that I wish to buy the property. The council have a few weeks, I guess, to get back to you to say whether they approve it or not. In that process, you are basically saying that you wish to buy the property and who you're planning to buy it with. So you can buy with up to 3 family members, whether that's your siblings. And in my case, it was just me and my mum. And although I've got siblings, essentially where they're at uni, it doesn't really count. Like, they're going to be living there anyway. So that's not, you don't really need to include them. So after that process, when the council get back to you and say, yep, you can buy the property, you have 12 weeks. The council gives you 12 weeks to basically accept or decline the offer. So in that time, within that 12-week window, you either have to find your own solicitors, you have to make sure that you can get a mortgage offer in place. So when you submit that form, at the bottom of that form, it says who's your solicitors and who is your mortgage lender. So essentially you can't accept without those two parties agreeing that they are happy to help you with your home purchase.
And the deposit. So for anybody buying a home in the UK, saving a deposit is one of the most difficult parts. We do understand that you've received the discount.
Yeah.
Did you have to save any further deposit?
Yeah, so in that process of me trying to buy the property, obviously you go to loads of different mortgage brokers, mortgage lenders, and you say, this is my income, this is my family's income, this is how much savings I have. And essentially they will tell you what your affordability would be and what that looks like. So even though I had 136,400 taken off as a discount, although you can use that as part of a deposit, essentially, if the affordability doesn't work, you won't get a mortgage. So in my case, that's basically what had happened. They had given us the market value of the property. They had then said, this is how much money you would get off the property, leaving me with about 128,600. Then obviously they calculate your salary, how much you make and how much the other person you're buying with makes. And if there's a shortfall, they're basically saying, we won't be able to lend you how much you require until you basically fill in that shortfall. So that's where my issue came. So I had loads of people in my comments say, but you can use your right to buy a discount as your deposit. Yes, you can. But essentially the bank wants to know, will you be able to give me the money back if we lend you the money? And at the moment, it looks like you don't even have enough to borrow from us. And that's what the issue essentially was. So that actually meant that I then had to... So with the mortgage brokers that I had, so obviously I had various, because I was like, I got to make sure I get like the right market, I got to make sure I get the right, or like the best quote given to me, essentially. And one of them was for 68,500, I think it was. And I was like, how are we going to save this? How are we going to save this? I'm like, are you sure this is the cheapest that you've got? Are you sure? And I think it was one of the UK's biggest mortgage brokers as well. And they were like, yeah, 68,000, that's how much you basically need in order to buy your family home, although you already got the discount, the maximum discount on the right to buy. And I thought, it's all over. And we've got 12 weeks to do this. So yeah, in that time, it basically meant that I was picking up every side hustle under the sun, from hairdressing to, I was doing so much, honestly, from hairdressing to UGC content creation, to affiliate marketing, to selling things online, whether it was my clothes, books, done an ebook. I also withdrew from my top cashback accounts, my receipt apps. What else? Social media was a big part. My Buy Me a Coffee page, which means when people love the content that you're creating, they want to donate a bit of something. I also did that, as well as that, also a contribution from my salary as well, because I was working as well full time. Government bonus, I utilised my lifetime ISA, which meant that the government gave me £1,000 on top. So yeah, I utilised every single avenue that I had. Again, of course, I wasn't doing it all alone. Of course, my family were also supportive, but I really was the main drive because I'm young and I can try. All I can do is try. So yeah, so it's been a roller coaster. It's been a crazy ride. Been exhausted. It stressed me out so much, more than you can even believe. I stopped going out, reduced subscriptions, all in the hope of basically trying to do that shortfall. Now, although they quoted me for 68,600 or so, I already had collectively with my family saved already 40k. I created my TikTok series of I need to save 18.6k, and I had 12 weeks to do it because we essentially already had about 40k saved, and I had about 10k saved on the side. So collectively as a family, that's how much we was willing to put in. But by that, I literally mean that we've put everything in. There's nothing more we could put in. And from that, it basically meant that I had 12 weeks to kind of work as hard as I could to try and get that shortfall. And within that time, I was really stressed, as mentioned. I just didn't go out as much anymore. All my pre-booked holidays, I didn't want to go on anymore. I felt bad even going. I was like, I just don't think I can do it, because if I miss this chance, that is it. The council basically essentially will cancel your application. They'll basically say, because you haven't come back to me with your solicitor, you haven't come back to me with a mortgage offer, essentially like your application's going to fall through. And that's not what I wanted, because this was literally the last chance, as mentioned, to utilise that maximum discount of 136,400. 400. And if I had to redo that application, I would only have 38,000, which is a massive drop, which means I will probably never, ever be able to afford a home through the Right to Buy scheme.
It's an amazing accomplishment to have hopefully got there. I did see on your Instagram, I found it quite amusing. You said, you've got an £18,000 deposit to save in 12 weeks, and you had to set yourself some ground rules. What were they?
Reduce subscriptions, goodbye Amazon. That was heartbreaking. I essentially kind of stopped going out as much because I just need to save. It was a hard decision because I always like to make an effort, especially for people's birthdays. And I was like, I just don't think in this time frame I can essentially do that. I picked up more job roles. I picked up more UGC content creation as well. So that's essentially making content for brands that's not essentially going on your own page. Selling clothes. I was selling books. I was doing hair, braiding. Also, what's the word called? When people like a consultation, when people like pick your brain, I'll charge people to pick my brain. And yeah, that's essentially what I was doing. The thing is, I actually didn't reach the 18.6K. In that time, with the 12 weeks, I just couldn't do it. It wasn't possible. I think in that time, I probably did about 3K in the 12 weeks. And then I had an additional extension of 28 days from the council. And by the way, once you get the 28 days extension, you don't get any more after that. That is essentially it. The council basically say, see you, that's it. We're taking our house. So in that time frame, so obviously I had 12 weeks and then I had additional 28 days. In that time, I managed to make 6,612 pence. And then on top of that, I had the government bonus, so which actually brings the total up to 7,612 pence. And that was basically essentially what I made in 112 days. Now, because of the tax year, I was able to actually resubmit my tax return. So I didn't realise. I was like, they kept asking, have you got updated this? I was like, well, everything's updated. You've got all my pay slips. You've got my tax return. What else do you need? You've got the tax return for the last 2 years. And then they were like, you can submit again, right? Because the tax year, April, you can do it again. And I was like, I don't even think I made that much, to be honest. And they were like, well, let's have a look. And I said, well, I haven't submitted it yet. They were like, well, get an accountant and go and submit it. And I was like, oh, okay, fine. So I did. So I ended up going to get an accountant. I said, listen, I'm about to buy my home and I just want to make sure that, we utilise this correctly. I want to make sure I've claimed the right tax relief and everything. And can we just ensure that I've basically imported everything correctly, which is basically what they did. So when they came back, they gave my tax return. And then I'd found out that I had made at least over 14K that time in profit. So I was like, okay, so do I have enough? And they were like, essentially, yeah, you've got enough, which actually means that my tax return is going to be pretty high. I owe quite a bit of money to the tax man, which is another stress on top that I don't want. So essentially, in that time frame, because I had to resubmit my tax return, it meant that I actually didn't need as much deposit as I thought I needed.
An important point to take from that is that when you are self-employed, a lot of the time accountants may default to being tax efficient.
Yeah.
So if you are self-employed, as you have been, it's important to communicate with your accountant that you do want to, maximise your income naturally.
Yeah.
Because when you are applying for a mortgage or buying a home, that typically will be the primary goal. And just to go back to something else that you spoke through, so you've mentioned how you had to make sacrifices.
Yes.
When saving your deposits or cancelling subscriptions, turning down nights out, maybe having a little bit less fun for a short period. But I think that's reality. No, we don't all need to stop drinking coffee forever in order to buy a home. No. However, reality is a lot of the time we do need to make sacrifices. Yeah. And buying a home isn't going to be your priority from the age of 18 until you are, until you do it. Yeah. But at some point it is going to be. Yeah. And you've got to be willing, if necessary, to make some sacrifices. Yeah.
And for me, I only had 12 weeks. So in that 12 weeks, I had to really discipline myself and said, I can't do this. But to be fair, all my friends were really understanding. My family understood as well. I had 12 weeks. And that's it. This is my future. I had 12 weeks to try and make this work in order to get my family home. I was lucky enough to get an additional extension for 28 days. So for those who are currently listening or watching and wanting to get their house through the Right to Buy scheme and your 12 weeks is up, you can obviously contact the council and they can send you a letter to basically say that you can get an additional 28 days. So for those who don't know that, you can do that as well. But that is it. After 28 days, you basically don't have another chance. But yeah, as you mentioned, I only had a really short amount of time, so I had to be disciplined during that time, and it was hard. Of course, I still had my other budget pots, which meant maybe for other things that I needed to do, maybe my car or other things I needed to pay for, because I couldn't obviously use everything or I'd be left with nothing, and I still got bills to pay. But yeah, it was hard. It was hard, and I guess, you know, you want it to be a rewarding thing when you finally get the keys or you finally have, you know, completed it and you got your house. But yeah, it wasn't easy, but sometimes you do have to make those sacrifices in order to make it work.
Yeah, and when going through the process of buying your family home, did you have doubts? And how strong were those doubts?
Oh, yeah. I think one of the main doubts were, because we are buying a home that is very old, it comes with a lot of problems. Now, when you are buying your house for the Right to Buy scheme, they send out a surveyor and they will tell you basically how much the house is worth. And that is it. They don't go into like the, you know, in-depth survey of all the issues within your house. And then when you go through the process of, you know, the mortgage as well, the mortgage offer, the bank come out to your house again to see whether it's worth the investment. And they also don't do an in-depth survey. So we done our own level 3 survey and it come back with over 80k worth of repairs.
How was that?
And I thought, oh my goodness. So, which means anything that was urgent, anything that was structural issue, the council are obliged to, legally, they have to fix it. But the rest is basically down to you to fix, probably over time. Obviously, you're not going to do it overnight, but over time. And I kept thinking, is it worth me even buying this? Like, there's so many things that we actually essentially have to fix. So that was like my biggest doubt, especially after the level 3 survey, which I recommend everyone should do before purchasing a home. The only thing is, because I did it within the time frame that basically I was kind of coming to the end of my extension as well, the council just weren't replying back. Yeah, they just weren't replying back, and which meant I basically had to as a family had to make a hard decision of whether we want to go ahead or if we just say we don't want to do it. And I think the smart thing was, you know what, let's just do it, let's just get it, and over time we'll fix it. Maybe when we remortgage in the next 5 years, you might pull out some of the money and then refurbish it that way. But I think that was my biggest doubt, because it's things that obviously you can't see with the naked eye that the surveyors who have done the level 3 have picked up, including missing bricks in the roof. I had no idea because we don't go up there. So things like that really just put me off. But also I would say that new commitment now of, you know, once you have got a mortgage and having to repay that back every single month, it's a huge commitment. It's massive. And, you know, especially if you're used to paying maybe around £700 a month and now it's jumping to over like 1.4, 1.6 or 1.5, it's a massive, massive change even to your own lifestyle, to be honest.
Yeah. I always say to my home buyers that you wouldn't buy a car worth hundreds of thousands of pounds and not make sure a mechanic's check that it works.
Yes.
And it's the same with buying a house. And also with home buyers who are buying via the Right to Buy scheme, as you are, I've heard a lot from those home buyers, I don't want a survey because I've lived in the property for 20 years. Why do I need a survey? But reality is it's just as important, because 100%. You are now still going to own that asset. And in the future, if you ever wanted to sell that asset, you need to be aware of what the problems could be. There could be issues that could cost thousands and thousands of pounds, as you've mentioned. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to pull out of the purchase, but at least you've got the clarity, and then you can act. You can maybe look to make repairs over the years. You can pull out if you want to. But yeah, at least you're then going through the process knowing everything that you need to know.
Yeah, 100%. And as you mentioned, if you were looking to sell that house in a few years' time, the next buyers are going to say, well, this is wrong with it, this is wrong with it, this is wrong with it. But because you've lived in it and it's comfortable and it's nice, you know, you're not thinking about the structural issues or maybe other underlying issues within the property or, you know, the maintenance of it. So I think it's really important just so that you know, even for your own peace of mind, the things that might be wrong or the things that you might have to look to fix in a couple of years' time.
Yeah, so Elvie, what stage of the process are you at right now?
So I can't believe I'm actually announcing this on your podcast. Oh my gosh, what a treat. So I've actually now received a mortgage offer.
Congratulations.
Yay! So happy. And that's essentially the bank saying that we are happy and we're happy to lend your money and we know that our money is going to come back. So thank you for trusting me, bank. And I'm now just waiting for the official documents to come back from the council, basically the paperwork to basically say, you know, we need to sign the dotted lines. In that time, obviously, of awaiting for the dotted lines, you know, you get back all the other documents, which is like the surveys, you get back that environmental search, the water search, all those kind of things as well, which has been really interesting to know because it's not something I've known before this. I didn't know that was a thing or, you know, how much of the land you're going to own and, you know, they draw it out for you. So, yeah, it's a massive achievement and a massive accomplishment, but I know it's going to be a massive commitment. But ultimately, you know, coming from not a lot and knowing that together, working really hard to get to this point of owning our family home, an asset is like a huge, huge thing for me. And I think it hits home for me knowing that like I don't come from much and, you know, we can try and make this work. It's
a huge accomplishment. And it's not only financial. Yes, it is an asset and it's an investment for the family, etc. But it's also home.
Yeah.
What you've done is amazing. So now that you've got your mortgage offer and it looks like it's going to happen and we're almost there.
Yes.
What's that going to mean to your family and your mum?
They're going to be over the moon. They're going to be over the moon. Well, they already are. But I think especially for my mum, you know, she's got her kids and she is known that she's leaving something behind for her children. I think that's what means the most, I think, to her. For me, it's just knowing we've got somewhere secure. It's a home. It's where our memories are. And it's something we can continue to build. And like you said before with your grandparents' home, you know, this might be the home for Christmases and everyone coming round and stuff. I mean, we obviously know that it's going to come with a lot of its challenges. And obviously there's a lot of unexpected things that you're going to be paying for as well, which I didn't really mention in the podcast, but obviously things like the surveyor fees that we had to do, the solicitor fees, the mortgage broker fees, the bank fees. There's so many other fees that come with it, so it's just kind of being aware of those things as well if you're looking to buy your home. But essentially it is rewarding knowing that once you sign those dotted lines that it's essentially yours.
Amazing. And with those fees that you've just mentioned, have you as a family been a little bit surprised at how much they're costing, when they're payable?
Oh, yes. I was like, you know what? It made me really want to shop around for solicitors. Yeah. Some quotes I was getting like £4,000. Others were like, 3,000. And then it was like, okay, I'll go with you then. You're a bit cheaper. Oh, by the way, it costs like an additional £200 to add the lifetime ISA. Are you using the lifetime ISA? Yeah. Okay, it costs you another £120. I was like, wait, what? There was so many unexpected costs with it that I had no idea about as well. And again, you know, little things like paying an accountant to do my books, paying a mortgage broker, paying the bank essentially. It's like, why do I have to pay you again? So many other hidden costs that I didn't think were included that you really do have to consider. So although, you know, it's that we had to save a certain amount of money, because I didn't actually essentially have to use hardly any of my deposit, that is basically what that is paying for now, and that has definitely helped us out a lot. I know loads of people might not be in that same position where it's like, this is all I have, this is all I've got to put down, I don't have any more money to pay for any more solicitors or anything like that. So yeah, I think just being aware of that, because that is something that definitely surprised me with the costs.
Yeah, when you are approaching a solicitor, you need to make them aware of everything. Because a little bit of extra paperwork, it's going to come with a cost. Whether that's it being a leasehold property,
Yeah.
gifted money,
Yeah.
a lifetime ISA, an adult occupant who's living at the property and not
Yeah.
named on the mortgage,
Yeah.
a solicitor will charge you for all of this.
Yeah.
So when you are getting quotations and you're shopping around, make sure you're providing them with all of the information to make sure all of those costs are included, and then you're not going to get any surprises. Yeah, nobody wants surprises.
Hate
How,
surprises.
how have you found the legal process other than the costs?
Have I found it?
Yeah.
The legal process has been quite hard. I think because we're dealing with local authority, it's a bit more challenging. It's taken a bit much more longer than I thought it would. I really thought once you stand dotted line, that's it. Like it will quick turnaround, and it has not been the case at all. You are kind of going back and forth a bit with the council. You're then also maybe giving more paperwork as well, or more documents that you got to send to your solicitors, or whether it's to the council, whoever's asking for it, the bank, everyone's asking for documents. And I would say I found that because obviously last year the right to buy scheme was obviously coming to an end in regards to the maximum discount that people could have. It's obviously put a lot of pressure to the local authority as well, because everyone started applying. Probably thousands of people all applied. So they're probably very much backlogged, to be honest. So I think that communication has been a bit difficult because of that. Loads of people are doing it. And like I mentioned, loads of people be messaging me as well saying, I'm in the process of buying my house and my flat. Which one's better? Which one should I do? What should I do? So yeah, I think I can completely understand that they are pretty much backlogged. But that communication has been very difficult, because I also am someone who wants to know what's going on. And I'll be like nagging and annoying the solicitors like, hey, what's happening? We haven't heard back, LV, like relax. And I'm like, no, please, I need to know. Like, is there anything else that you need from me? So yeah, it's really good to make sure that you have a good solicitor that you're able to communicate with, that you're able to just call, and they're really hands on. Because there was one solicitor that I was gonna go with, but they were like all the way in Wales, and I thought I'm probably never gonna visit your office ever. I'd say having a good relationship with your solicitors as well will make life a little bit easier too.
Yeah, and don't be shy to ask questions and ask, how long will it take them to respond to emails? How do they communicate? Is it just email? Can you book in a phone call? Do they use WhatsApp? Most solicitors don't, in my opinion. They should, because that's how we communicate now. And yeah, don't be shy of having those conversations. But Elvie, congratulations. You should be very proud of yourself. One final question to end the podcast. What does home mean to you?
I'd say home means family. That's what I'd say it is.
Amazing. And where can our listeners find you?
You can find me on TikTok and Instagram as SaveWithElvs.
Well, thank you very much for joining me. That's been a very valuable conversation. And thank you very much to our listeners. And we'll be back next week.